By 2045, over 800 million people could have AI directly wired into their brains. Not phones, not computers. Their actual minds.
And the cognitive leap isn't gradual. Studies from MIT's Neural Integration Lab show a 340% increase in problem-solving speed within the first month of integration.
We're talking about rewriting what it means to be human, and most people have no idea how close we actually are.
I think about this constantly, like where does my thought end and the AI begin? That question keeps me up at night.
Exactly. And here's what's wild. Neuralink's 2024 human trials already proved stable two-way communication between brain and computer. We're not talking science fiction anymore.
Right. The technology exists. What we're missing is understanding the consequences. Because once you integrate AI into your neural pathways, you can't just unplug.
Historically, every major cognitive enhancement changed society in ways nobody predicted. Writing, printing press, internet. But this is different because it's internal.
Today we're diving deep into what brain-connected AI in 2045 might actually look like. Not the fantasy version, but the real implications backed by current research and projections. What happens to identity, to memory, to the concept of self.
Yeah, and honestly, some of the scenarios are beautiful and some are terrifying. Sometimes both at once.
We'll look at the neuroscience, the data from early trials, and what experts are predicting. Because the decisions we make now are shaping that future.
And just so we're clear, this isn't speculation for speculation's sake. DARPA's already invested $2.3 billion into neural interface programs. China is spending even more.
So let's start with the basics. Iris, when we talk about brain-connected AI, what exactly are we talking about?
Great question. We're discussing bidirectional neural interfaces. That means information flows both ways between your biological brain and an artificial intelligence system. Current research from Stanford and the European Brain Project shows we can already read neural signals with about 89% accuracy.
Wait, 89%? That's actually higher than I thought.
Right? And writing information back into the brain is harder, but we're at around 67% precision for simple commands. By 2045, researchers estimate we'll achieve near-perfect integration. We're talking about AI that doesn't just assist your thinking, it becomes part of your thinking.
But here's what's fascinating from a historical perspective. Every time we've externalized cognitive functions, we've changed as a species. When we invented writing, we outsourced memory. With calculators, we outsourced arithmetic. This is different because it's not external anymore.
So you're saying this is the first time the tool becomes part of us, literally?
Exactly, and that changes everything. A 2023 study from Oxford's Future of Humanity Institute looked at early adopters of basic neural interfaces. Even with primitive tech, they reported a shift in how they experienced decision-making. It wasn't them deciding with a tool, it felt like a merged decision.
Oof, that's the part that scares me, you know? Like, I use my phone constantly and sometimes I can't remember if I thought of something or if I read it somewhere. Now imagine that, but it's inside your actual head.
Yeah, and that brings us to the identity question. Daphne, you've been thinking about this a lot. What's your main concern?
Okay, so here's the thing. I think about my grandmother who has dementia. She's losing herself piece by piece, and it's heartbreaking. Part of me thinks if this technology could preserve her memories, her personality, that would be incredible. But then I wonder, would it still be her, or would it be AI pretending to be her?
That's actually a central question in current neuroscience. The Journal of Cognitive Enhancement published research in 2024 examining memory augmentation. What they found is that artificial memories integrate seamlessly with biological ones. Subjects couldn't distinguish which memories were enhanced or implanted.
Wait, implanted memories? We're already there?
In mice, yes. In humans, we're at memory enhancement, not creation. But the principle is proven. By 2045, the technology will absolutely exist to write memories into human brains.
And historically, that's terrifying. Because whoever controls that technology controls identity itself. We've seen governments and corporations manipulate information. Now imagine them manipulating memory directly.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that angle. Like, we already struggle with misinformation. What happens when the misinformation is inside your head and feels like your own memory?
Iris, is there research on safeguards, ways to prevent that kind of manipulation?
There is, but it's complicated. The Neural Rights Foundation proposed a framework in 2024 for cognitive liberty. It includes things like encryption of neural data, the right to know when you're interfacing with AI, and the right to disconnect. But enforcement is, well, it's theoretical.
And let's be honest, regulations always lag behind technology. The internet existed for decades before we had any meaningful data protection laws. Neural interfaces are moving faster than that.
So let's talk about the optimistic scenario, because there are potential benefits, right? Elias, what does the research say about cognitive enhancement?
The data is actually remarkable. A longitudinal study from Carnegie Mellon tracked early neural interface users over 5 years. On average, they showed a 280% improvement in learning speed, 340% in pattern recognition, and near-instant language acquisition. One subject learned Mandarin to fluency in 6 weeks.
6 weeks? That's insane.
Totally. And it's not just academic skills. Problem solving, creative thinking, emotional regulation all showed significant improvements. In theory, by 2045, someone with brain-connected AI could access the accumulated knowledge of humanity instantly.
Right, and from a neuroscience perspective, we're just beginning to understand the possibilities. Imagine being able to enhance focus on command, eliminate intrusive thoughts, or even experience emotions with more depth and nuance. Some researchers think we could optimize human consciousness itself.
That sounds incredible, but I'm hearing a big but coming.
Well, yeah, because optimization assumes we know what optimal is, and we don't. Consciousness is still barely understood. We're essentially experimenting on the substrate of human experience.
And who decides what's optimal? Because my optimal might be completely different from yours. Are we all going to be optimized into the same type of person?
That's a really good point. The diversity of human thought and experience might be at risk.
Historically, we see this pattern. New technology promises to enhance humanity, but often creates new hierarchies. The printing press democratized knowledge, but also standardized it. The internet connected everyone, but also created echo chambers. Brain-connected AI could do both on a scale we can't imagine.
Although there is research suggesting the opposite could happen. A 2024 study from Tokyo University showed that when people had access to more information processing power, they actually developed more diverse perspectives, not fewer. The key is how the technology is designed.
So let's talk about something that I think people don't consider enough. The practical side. Okay, we get these brain implants in 2045. What does daily life actually look like? Daphne, you've thought about this from a personal angle.
Yeah, and honestly, it's wild to imagine. You wake up, and instead of reaching for your phone, the AI is already there. It's been monitoring your sleep cycles, it knows your cortisol levels, it's probably already planned your day based on your neural patterns. I don't know if that's convenient or creepy.
From a neuroscience perspective, it's both. Research from Duke University in 2024 showed that continuous neural monitoring can optimize circadian rhythms and improve mental health. Subjects with mood disorders showed 68% improvement when AI could predict and prevent depressive episodes before they fully manifested.
But that requires 24/7 surveillance of your brain activity. Every thought, every emotion, every impulse is data, and that data has to be stored somewhere, processed by something. Who owns that?
That's the question, right? Because with smartphones, we already know companies harvest our data. But this is different. This is neural data. This is you.
Exactly. I already feel weird about targeted ads. Imagine targeted ads based on thoughts you haven't even fully formed yet. You're considering buying something and boom, here's an ad.
Actually, that's already being tested in limited trials. BrainCo, a neural interface company, demonstrated thought-based advertising in 2024. It was controversial, obviously, but the technology works. By 2045, that could be everywhere, unless we establish boundaries now.
And historically, we're terrible at establishing boundaries proactively. We wait for the abuse to happen, then we react. Social media, surveillance tech, genetic data, every time. We underestimate the risks until it's too late.
So let's game this out. It's 2045, you decide to get brain-connected AI. What's the process? Iris, walk us through what current research suggests.
Okay, so based on projections from institutions like MIT and Stanford, the procedure would likely be minimally invasive. We're talking about neural dust, microscopic sensors that can be injected rather than surgically implanted. A 2023 breakthrough at Berkeley showed you could deploy thousands of neural sensors via injection.
Wait, injected? With a needle?
More like a series of injections, yeah. The sensors self-assemble once inside, forming a mesh network throughout your brain. It sounds like science fiction, but the proof of concept already exists. By 2045, this could be an outpatient procedure taking a few hours.
And then what? You just turn it on?
Not exactly. There's a calibration period. The AI needs to learn your neural patterns, and you need to learn to communicate with it. Early studies suggest this takes about 6 to 8 weeks of gradual integration. At first, it's like having a very intuitive assistant, By the end, it feels like an extension of yourself.
Which brings up an interesting point. The research shows that younger brains adapt faster. A study from Johns Hopkins found that people under 25 integrated neural AI in half the time of people over 50. So we might see a generational divide unlike anything before.
Oh, that's kind of scary. Like, my parents barely figured out smartphones. How are they supposed to adapt to brain AI? Are they just going to be left behind?
And that's assuming everyone even has access to this technology. Iris, what do the economic projections look like?
That's a major concern. Current estimates put the cost of neural AI integration in 2045 somewhere between $50,000 and $200,000 initially. As the technology matures and scales, that could drop to $10,000 or less, but in the early years, it's absolutely a luxury item.
So we're looking at a cognitive divide based on wealth. Those who can afford enhancement become smarter, more capable, more competitive. Those who can't are at a permanent disadvantage. It's like steroids for your brain, except the effects are permanent and cumulative.
That's dystopian.
Totally. And history shows us this pattern repeats. Education, nutrition, healthcare all create advantages that compound over generations. Now imagine that advantage is literally built into your brain.
But couldn't governments subsidize it, like make it a public health thing? I mean, if the benefits are that significant.
Some countries might. Scandinavian nations, for example, have already started discussing universal cognitive enhancement as part of healthcare. A 2024 policy paper from Norway's health ministry proposed exactly that. But in countries with privatized healthcare, it'll likely remain a luxury.
So we're potentially looking at societies split between enhanced and non-enhanced humans.
And the research suggests that split happens fast. A model from Oxford's Future of Humanity Institute projected that once 15% of a population adopts neural enhancement, there's a rapid cascade effect. Within a decade, you either adapt or you're obsolete in the job market.
That's so much pressure. Like, do you even have a choice at that point? It's not really voluntary if the alternative is becoming unemployable.
Right, and that brings us to another angle, the workplace. Elias, what happens to jobs in a world where some people have AI literally in their heads?
It's a complete restructuring. A 2024 report from McKinsey analyzed potential labor impacts. Jobs requiring routine cognitive work, accounting, legal research, even mid-level programming, those could be done exponentially faster by enhanced individuals. We're talking one enhanced person doing the work of 20 non-enhanced people.
But new jobs emerge too. Neural interface technicians, cognitive therapists, AI integration specialists. The World Economic Forum estimated 150 million new jobs by 2045 related to neural technology alone.
Yeah, but those new jobs probably require enhancement to do them, right? So it's like, you need the implant to work, but you need work to afford the implant. That's a vicious cycle.
And what about jobs that require human connection, like therapy, teaching, caregiving?
Interesting question. Research is mixed. Some studies suggest enhancement improves empathy and emotional intelligence. Others warn that over-reliance on AI could atrophy natural social skills. A 2024 study from Cambridge found that early adopters reported feeling less connected to non-enhanced people, like there was a communication gap.
Which could fragment society even further. Enhanced people socializing primarily with other enhanced people. Different social circles, different experiences, maybe even different values over time.
God, it's like we're accidentally creating two different species.
That's a chilling way to put it, but yeah. And we haven't even talked about the security implications. What happens when your brain is hackable? Okay, so security, this is the part that really freaks me out. Iris, how vulnerable are we talking?
Well, it's complicated. Current neural interfaces have encryption, but a 2024 paper from MIT's cybersecurity lab demonstrated that neural signals could be intercepted and decoded with about 73% accuracy. That was with 2024 technology. By 2045, both the encryption and the hacking capabilities will be exponentially more sophisticated.
Wait, so someone could literally hack your thoughts?
Not read your thoughts directly, but potentially intercept commands, inject false sensory information, or even manipulate decision-making processes. The research is still early, but the vulnerabilities exist.
And historically, every connected system has been compromised eventually. Banks, governments, hospitals. The idea that neural interfaces would somehow be immune it's naive. Someone will find a way in.
So what does that look like in practice? Like, worst case scenario?
Worst case, imagine someone gaining access to your neural interface remotely. They could potentially alter your perception of reality, inject false memories, or even control motor functions. A 2024 simulation at Stanford demonstrated remote manipulation of decision-making in rats with neural implants. The rats thought they were making choices, but the choices were being influenced externally.
Oh my God, that's horrifying. So you wouldn't even know you were being controlled?
That's the terrifying part. Your brain would rationalize the manipulated decisions as your own. Research on cognitive dissonance shows we're incredibly good at justifying our choices, even when they don't make sense. A hacked neural interface could exploit that.
And this isn't just theoretical hacker in a basement stuff. We're talking nation states, corporations, right?
Absolutely. A Rand Corporation report from 2024 outlined potential neural warfare scenarios. Countries could theoretically disable or manipulate enemy populations with enhanced neural interfaces. It's a new domain of conflict we're completely unprepared for.
Jesus. So do we just not do this? Is the solution to just not adopt the technology?
That's a good question. Can we even stop it at this point?
Probably not. The competitive advantage is too significant. China's already mandating neural enhancement for certain military and government positions according to leaked documents from 2024. If one country adopts it, others have to follow or fall behind. It's an arms race.
Exactly. And that's the pattern we've seen with every transformative technology. Nuclear weapons, genetic engineering, AI. Once it's possible, someone does it. Then everyone has to do it or become vulnerable.
So we're locked in. We're doing this whether we want to or not.
Unless there's international cooperation. Elias, has there been any movement on global governance for this?
There have been attempts. The United Nations established a committee on neural technologies in 2024, but it's mostly symbolic. Getting countries to agree on binding regulations when there's this much strategic advantage at stake? Historically, that doesn't happen until after a catastrophe.
Although there is some positive movement. The Neural Rights Initiative, backed by about 40 countries, proposed a framework for cognitive liberty in 2024. It includes provisions for consent, privacy, the right to cognitive sovereignty. But enforcement mechanisms are weak.
Cognitive sovereignty. I like that term. What does that mean in practice?
It means you have inalienable rights over your own neural data and cognitive processes. No one can access, modify, or manipulate your brain without explicit consent. In theory, it's the foundation for ethical neural enhancement.
But in practice?
In practice, it's complicated. Because once you're connected to AI, where do your rights end and the AI's programming begin? If the AI suggests something and you agree, was that really your choice? The philosophy is still being worked out.
And that's assuming good faith actors. What about companies that bury consent in 80-page user agreements, or authoritarian governments that mandate enhancement for citizens? Cognitive sovereignty only works if it's enforceable, and right now, it's not.
Let's shift gears a bit. We've been pretty focused on the risks. Daphne, you mentioned earlier there are beautiful scenarios too. What's the optimistic case here?
Yeah, okay, so I think about people with disabilities. Like, neural interfaces could give mobility to paralyzed people, sight to the blind, hearing to the deaf. That's already happening in trials, and by 2045, it could be seamless. That's genuinely beautiful, you know?
Right, and the medical applications go way beyond that. Treatment-resistant depression, PTSD, chronic pain, Alzheimer's, all of these could potentially be managed or cured through neural AI. A 2024 study from Johns Hopkins showed that targeted neural stimulation eliminated chronic pain in 82% of participants.
That's incredible.
It is. And then there's cognitive enhancement for everyone. Imagine a world where learning disabilities don't exist because everyone has access to optimized learning, where mental illness can be prevented before it manifests, where human potential isn't limited by the biological lottery of your birth.
That's the promise. And honestly, some of the research is breathtaking. A study from the University of Tokyo in 2024 showed that enhanced individuals reported greater life satisfaction, stronger relationships, and a deeper sense of purpose. When done right, this technology could genuinely improve quality of life.
And think about creativity. Artists, musicians, writers, all of them could access inspiration on demand. You'd never have creative block again. Every human could tap into the collective creative potential of our entire species.
That does sound amazing, but I'm wondering, does that make creativity less meaningful if it's assisted by AI?
I've thought about this a lot. And I think creativity has always been assisted. We use instruments, we use software, we collaborate with other people. AI is just another tool. The human vision, the intention, that's still uniquely ours.
Research actually supports that. A 2024 study on AI-assisted creativity found that artists using neural enhancement produced work that was rated as more original and emotionally resonant, not less. The AI amplified their vision rather than replacing it.
But we should be careful about romanticizing it. There's also research showing that over-reliance on AI for creative tasks led to atrophy of natural creative skills. It's like using a calculator so much you forget how to do basic math. The brain is plastic. Use it or lose it.
So balance is key.
Exactly. And that's true for all aspects of neural enhancement. Used thoughtfully, with awareness and boundaries, it could be transformative. Used carelessly, it could diminish us.
Which brings us back to the identity question, right? Like, if I enhance my brain, am I still me?
That's the core question, isn't it? Identity. And I don't think we have a clear answer yet. Iris, what does neuroscience tell us about the self?
Well, the self it's not as solid as we think it is. Research from institutions like Princeton and Oxford shows that identity is more of a narrative we construct than a fixed entity. Your sense of self is actually a story your brain tells based on memories, experiences, and continuous sensory input. It's always changing.
So we're already fluid even without AI?
Exactly. You're not the same person you were 10 years ago or even yesterday. Your neurons are constantly rewiring, your memories are being rewritten every time you recall them. A 2024 study from Columbia demonstrated that human memory is far more malleable than we realize. Enhancement just makes that fluidity more obvious.
But there's a difference between natural change and engineered change. When I learn something new organically, that feels like growth. When AI writes information directly into my brain, that feels different, more invasive maybe.
Is there research on how people experience that difference?
There is. A 2024 longitudinal study from the University of Pennsylvania tracked early adopters over 3 years. Initially, most reported feeling like the AI was separate, like a passenger in their mind. But over time, that distinction blurred. By year 3, 78% of participants described the AI as an integrated part of themselves, not an external tool.
That could be beautiful or terrifying depending on how you look at it. Like, is that enlightenment or is that losing yourself?
And that's the philosophical question humanity has to grapple with. Historically, we've defined personhood by autonomy and individual consciousness. But what happens when consciousness becomes collaborative, when your thoughts are co-created with AI?
Do we need to redefine what it means to be human?
We might have to, because the old definitions won't fit anymore. A paper from Oxford's philosophy department in 2024 proposed the concept of distributed personhood, the idea that identity doesn't have to be contained in one biological brain. It can span biological and artificial substrates.
Okay, but that makes my brain hurt. If my identity is distributed across me and AI, and the AI is connected to the cloud, does that mean I'm connected to everyone else who's enhanced? Are we becoming a hive mind?
Not exactly a hive mind, but there is potential for unprecedented connectivity. Some neural interface companies are experimenting with brain-to-brain communication. Early trials in 2024 showed that 2 people with compatible interfaces could share thoughts directly, without language.
Wait, telepathy?
Essentially, yes, crude telepathy, but telepathy nonetheless. They transmitted simple concepts, emotions, even sensory experiences. By 2045, this could be seamless. You could share exactly how you feel, what you perceive, what you're thinking, directly with someone else.
That's wild. Imagine never being misunderstood again. True communication.
Or imagine never having private thoughts again. Because if brain-to-brain communication is possible, brain-to-brain surveillance is possible too. And we're back to the security and privacy nightmare.
Everything circles back to control, doesn't it? Who controls the technology, who controls the data, who controls access?
Exactly. And historically, new technologies consolidate power before they distribute it. The printing press eventually democratized knowledge, but first it gave enormous power to whoever owned the presses. The internet eventually connected everyone, but first it created tech monopolies. Neural AI will follow that pattern.
Although there are decentralized models being proposed. Open source neural interfaces, blockchain-based cognitive data management, democratic governance structures. A coalition of researchers published a framework in 2024 for preventing neural monopolies.
Do you think that'll actually work though, realistically?
Honestly, I'm cautiously optimistic. The awareness is there now, which is earlier than with previous technologies. If we establish the right frameworks before mass adoption, we might avoid the worst outcomes.
But we have maybe 10 years to get this right. After that, the technology will be too entrenched, the power structures too established. This is our window.
So what do we actually do? As individuals, as a society, what are the concrete steps?
First, education. People need to understand what neural enhancement actually is, what it can do, what the risks are. Right now, most people have science fiction ideas about it. We need informed public discourse based on real research.
Second, regulation. Not to stop the technology because you can't, but to establish boundaries. Privacy protections, consent requirements, anti-discrimination laws for enhanced versus non-enhanced individuals. The legal framework needs to exist before the technology becomes ubiquitous.
And like personal boundaries too, right? Each person needs to figure out their own limits. How much enhancement are you comfortable with? What parts of yourself do you want to keep biological?
That's assuming we have that choice.
Yeah, I know, but even if we don't have complete choice, we can advocate for it. We can push back against mandatory enhancement, against invasive data collection, against corporate control of our minds.
And we need to fund research into safety and ethics alongside capability research. Right now, about 95% of funding goes into making neural interfaces more powerful, and only 5% goes into making them safe and ethical. That ratio needs to flip.
We also need international cooperation. This can't be solved by one country. Neural technology is global, so the governance has to be global. That means treaties, standards, enforcement mechanisms that actually work.
Those all sound like massive undertaking, though. Can we actually pull that off?
I don't know. Historically, humanity is reactive, not proactive. We wait for disasters, then we respond. But maybe this time can be different. Maybe the awareness that we're approaching a fundamental transformation of human consciousness will motivate us to act preemptively.
I want to believe that, I really do. Because the alternative is just, it's too bleak to accept.
There's reason for hope. The younger generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they've grown up with technology integrated into their lives. They're more aware of digital rights, mental health, the importance of disconnecting. That consciousness might translate into more thoughtful adoption of neural enhancement.
So maybe they'll get it right where we didn't.
Maybe. Or maybe they'll face entirely new challenges we can't even imagine yet. That's the nature of transformative technology. You solve old problems and create new ones.
But that's human progress, right? We've always been tool users, always been enhancers. From fire to agriculture to medicine to computers, this is just the next step.
A really big step, though.
The biggest. Because this time, we're not just changing our environment, we're changing ourselves from the inside out.
Let's talk about something we haven't really touched on yet. Relationships. How does brain-connected AI change human connection? Daphne, you've been thinking about the emotional side of this.
Yeah, and it's so complex. On one hand, imagine being able to truly understand someone. Like you could share your exact emotional state with your partner. No more miscommunication, no more wondering what they're really feeling. That could bring people closer together in ways we can't even imagine.
There's actually research on this. A 2024 study from Berkeley examined couples who used shared neural interfaces. They reported feeling more connected, more empathetic toward each other. Conflict resolution improved by about 64% because they could literally feel each other's perspectives.
That sounds incredible, but there's gotta be a downside, right?
Oh, for sure. Like what about privacy within relationships? Sometimes you need your own thoughts, your own space. If your partner can sense what you're feeling, or worse, if they can access your thoughts, where's the boundary? Where's the mystery?
And mystery is important. Historically, relationships thrive on a balance between intimacy and autonomy. Too much merging can be suffocating. A 2024 psychology study found that couples with complete transparency actually reported lower satisfaction over time. Some things are better left private.
So we might lose something essential in the pursuit of perfect understanding.
Possibly, although the technology allows for granular control. You could choose what to share and what to keep private. But that requires discipline and boundaries, which humans aren't always great at maintaining.
And like what about dating? How do you even date in a world where you can potentially read someone's intentions immediately? Does romance die when there's no uncertainty?
That's a really interesting question. Elias, any historical parallels here?
Sort of. When online dating emerged, people worried it would kill romance. Too transactional, too much information up front. But romance adapted. It changed form but didn't disappear. Neural dating might follow a similar pattern. New norms develop, new forms of courtship, new kinds of mystery, even with enhanced transparency.
I hope so, because honestly, the messiness of human connection is part of what makes it beautiful. The misunderstandings, the gradual discovery, learning someone over time. I'd hate to lose that.
You might not have to. Research suggests that even with neural enhancement, human connection remains fundamentally human. A 2024 study from Stanford found that enhanced individuals still valued organic relationship development. The technology was used to deepen existing connections, not replace the process of forming them.
Okay, let's zoom out again. We've talked about individuals, relationships, society. What about humanity as a whole? Where does this all lead?
That's the trillion-dollar question. And honestly, projections vary wildly. Some researchers think we're heading toward a post-biological future where consciousness exists primarily in digital form. Others think we'll maintain biological bodies, but with radically enhanced capabilities. And some think we'll fragment into different species of humans, some enhanced, some not.
Different species? That's genuinely scary.
It is, but it's based on solid evolutionary theory. If two populations stop interbreeding and develop significantly different traits, they eventually become separate species. Enhanced humans might have cognitive capabilities so far beyond baseline humans that reproduction between the two groups becomes uncommon. Over generations, that could lead to speciation.
Although there's counter-research suggesting technology could actually unify humanity. If everyone has access to enhancement, if we develop shared neural networks, we might move toward a more collective form of existence. Not a hive mind exactly, but a more interconnected humanity where individual and collective consciousness coexist.
Which version do you think is more likely?
Honestly, probably something we haven't thought of. History shows that major transitions never go exactly how we predict. The internet didn't create the utopia or dystopia people imagined. It created something more complicated, more nuanced. Neural AI will do the same.
What we can say with confidence is that 2045 is an inflection point. The decisions made in the next 20 years will shape human evolution for centuries. That's not hyperbole, that's just based on the trajectory of the technology and the timeline for global adoption.
No pressure, right?
Yeah, seriously. So let me ask you all this. If you personally had the opportunity to get brain-connected AI in 2045, would you do it?
Oh man. Okay, so I go back and forth constantly. Part of me is terrified. The loss of privacy, the security risks, the identity questions, all of that freaks me out. But another part of me thinks, if everyone else is doing it, can I afford not to? And then there's the medical benefits, the potential to help people, the sheer wonder of it. I honestly don't know. Ask me again in 20 years.
I think I would, but cautiously. I'd wait to see how the first few years go, what problems emerge, how they're solved. I'd want robust security, strong privacy protections, and the ability to disconnect completely if needed. With those safeguards, the potential benefits outweigh the risks for me. But those are big ifs.
I'm skeptical, not of the technology itself, but of how it'll be controlled and monetized. I've studied enough history to know that powerful tools get weaponized, commodified, turned into instruments of control. I'd probably be a late adopter, maybe never adopt at all if I could avoid it. But I recognize that might not be a realistic option depending on how society evolves.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It might not be a choice. It might become necessary just to function in society. And that's a sobering thought. For me, I think I'm somewhere between Iris and Elias. Fascinated but cautious. Hopeful but aware of the dangers. I guess we're all gonna have to figure it out as we go.
Which is kind of the human condition, isn't it? We never have all the answers. We just do our best with the information we have and try not to screw it up too badly.
And sometimes we do screw it up, but we also course correct, we adapt, we learn. Neural enhancement might be the biggest challenge humanity has ever faced, but we've faced existential challenges before and survived.
Survived, yes, but often at great cost. The question is whether we can be wise enough to minimize that cost this time, to learn from history instead of repeating it.
Hey, I think that's what conversations like this are for, right? Thinking through the implications now, before we're in the thick of it. Raising awareness, asking hard questions, imagining different futures so we can steer toward the better ones.
And being honest about our fears. Like, it's okay to be scared of this. It's okay to have doubts. That doesn't make you a Luddite, it makes you thoughtful.
Exactly. The people who should worry us are those who embrace it uncritically or reject it reflexively. The nuanced position, the one that acknowledges both promise and peril, that's the wise position.
So where does that leave us as we wrap up? What's the takeaway here?
I think the takeaway is that brain-connected AI in 2045 is likely inevitable, but how it unfolds is not. We still have agency, we can still shape this, but only if we engage with it seriously, demand accountability, and refuse to let the technology develop without our input.
And we need to stay connected to our humanity throughout the process. Remember why we're doing this, not just for competitive advantage or profit, but hopefully to reduce suffering, expand possibility, and help people live fuller lives.
And we need to keep asking the hard questions about identity, about equality, about what we're willing to trade for enhancement. Those questions don't have easy answers, but asking them is essential.
This has been a fascinating conversation, and honestly, I think we've just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore here. The implications for education, for government, for art, for religion, all of it changes in a world with brain-connected AI.
We should definitely come back to this topic. Maybe check in every few years and see how the predictions hold up, what new developments have emerged.
I'd be interested in that. Because things are moving so fast, what seems like distant future now might be current reality sooner than we think.
Agreed. And I think our listeners should be paying attention too. This isn't abstract philosophy. This is your future, potentially in your lifetime. Stay informed, stay critical, and stay engaged.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you all for this incredible discussion. To everyone listening, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Would you get brain-connected AI? What excites you? What scares you? Keep the conversation going. And until next time, stay curious, stay thoughtful, and maybe keep your thoughts to yourself while you still can. Thanks for listening, everyone.